Hi everyone, I'm Marcy and this is Creator's Call. I have a journal that I want to make, and part of why I'm so eager to make this is because I recently watched a video by Natasha at Treasure Books, and she claimed that this was the easiest way to bind a journal, and I quite agree with her. Here's a look at what we are making today. You're getting to see the final product before you see how I put it together. Looky, a journal for me. So exciting. So I hope you enjoyed this sneak peek, and now stay tuned for the rest of the video. If you'll recall, in my last video, I needed to dig out some of my journal making supplies and remember what on earth I still had. We had tried to pack up for a move last year and everything got put away. And then I really decluttered my craft room. And let me tell you, I condensed everything down pretty much to one box. And then there's just a couple of shelves here in the craft room that have a few more things. But for the most part, I got rid of so much. So I needed to go back and remember what I actually had so that I could make this journal. Now, what excites me about this journal is that it's very easy to bind. You don't have to do a lot of sewing and make a spine and do all of that. You make the signatures and then you attach them, and it's very flexible, lays open and lays flat. So I'm going to link Natasha's video down below and you guys can go check it out. She goes into lots of good details that I'm not going to cover here because she does it so well in her own video. I am making this journal for myself, which is also something a little bit different than what I normally do. I usually just make my journals for other people to enjoy, but this one is just for me. Step one, we're going to be making 5 signatures using 10 sheets of paper in each one. And so we need to find 50 sheets of paper that we're going to use. I am primarily focusing on writing space in this journal because I just want to really just use it like a pretty notebook. And so most of my papers are plain. I have a few pretty ones and a few decorative ones here, but for the most part, I'm just going with plain papers. And for this, I chose coffee dyed papers. I have 20 sheets here that were things that I coffee dyed in the past, trying with my stencils and stuff. They're not the best. And then I have 20 more sheets here that, I guess these are upside down, 20 more sheets that were coffee dyed. I ordered them from Etsy back in 2021 from this shop here. It's called Her Hands, Her Heart. So herhandsherheart.etsy.com. Now, since I ordered them so long ago, I don't know if her shop is still in business. I hope so, because she did great work. And around that time, I was ordering from several people. But what I liked about hers is that they're not so dark that I can't write on them. You know, whatever I put on there will still show up. And then I can intersperse them with my not so great looking pages. So there's 40 sheets right there. So I have my 40 pages over there, my 40 sheets. I want to call them sheets, not pages, so that it stays a little bit more clear. If you're new to this, the difference between pages and sheets and blah, 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 it can get kind of confusing. So I say sheets. We needed 50 sheets, so we can put 10 in each signature, and a signature is just a group of folded pages that you sew together. Okay, so I have 40, I need 10 more, and what I picked out in advance were some pretty book pages. This one's from, it's called A Country Lover's Notebook. I think I ordered it actually off of eBay. I thought I bought it in the UK. I could have, I don't know. Anyway, I have a beautiful hymn sheet out of a little choir book, and I like this because it's green. I have 2 pages from a book called The Concise British Flora in Color. I did one with the black and white because I really liked that, and then the other one with the pretty pages in color. And then I have some random scrapbook papers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I only need one more. Kind of torn because I like the brown with the lines. I like the blue with the sky, but I also adore this. I like the crinkle and the noise of it. But when I think about this, since my objective is to have writing space, that doesn't really lend itself, although it's pretty. And I like this one, but looking at how many pages I have, these are kind of have a light background, and then these, I don't know that this one really stands out as anything unusual. Of course, neither does this. It's brown, but it does have the lines on it. So I think I'm going to go with this one for mainly because it has the writing space on it. So there's my 10 extra sheets, and then there's 20, 40, so that makes 50. I will put these aside for now. And if you want to see really quick, these are the 2 books that I pulled my pretty pages out of. Now, the next step is just to start folding these all in half. I'm going to get a lot of crinkle here. Okay, so all I have to do is fold all of these in half, and then we're going to assemble them into signatures. This one already folded in half, that one folded in half. This one I hinged together because it was 2 separate sheets. Now I liked the rough edge here, so I put that to the outside, but that's actually where they were torn out of the book. I do have a video. It's one of my very early ones, but it seems to be picking up some traction now, and it's how to hinge your pages when they don't already come connected, and so I will link that down below. And then, let's see, so we have those were folded, these are already folded, set those over there. So all you're gonna do is just go through and fold these in half, and then I'll come back and I will divide them up into signatures, 10 sheets per signature. I've finished folding my papers in half, so then I divided them into groups of 10, and then the next thing that you have to do is simply organize how you want them within the signature. So let's start with this signature here, and then I'm just going to organize it however I think looks best. And there's really no rhyme or reason to it, to be honest. It's just whatever makes you happy. And so I have an easier time when I lay them out like this first instead of just stuffing them into each other. And so that's what works for me. And you may have your own little system, but so then I can just start stuffing them inside of each other to make its own signature. So since I have 1, 2, 3, I'm gonna switch that up. No, I'm not. I like how it contrasts with the dark here. 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna change that out. 7, 8, 9, 10, and it looks like I'm gonna have to trim off these book pages because they're a little wide, but that's fine. We'll do that in a little bit. So there's one, and I'll show you again on a second one. It turned out when I was doing this that apparently I had used one from this pack that I had ordered, and so I ended up being able to use the crinkly sheet after all. So that made me very happy. So that was a nice little surprise. See, it's kind of like all brown and white, which is fine. There's not a lot of color in it, but it will turn out to have a lot of color after I put it all together. So let's see. I think actually I want that there, which there we go. Kind of like it like that better, I think. Maybe not. You know, again, it's just whatever makes you happy. So once I lay it out and I can kind of see the flow on my workspace in front of me, then I go ahead and put them together as signatures. And I know that's not how everyone else does it, and that's fine. I don't have to be just like everybody else, but it just helps me to really sense the flow of the papers. So you just go ahead and pick them up and stuff them however you want, but it's entirely up to you how you do your process. And to be honest, everybody rearranges pages. You're going to end up switching things around. Oh, I wrote myself a note. This was from another project, and so the book page is actually slightly short, but that's fine. So yeah, when I disassembled some stuff and was clearing out everything, I took apart a lot of things that I had already put together to maybe collect. I had collected items for journals, and I had already kind of had things organized, and I just had to disassemble all of that stuff. So let's see, I want that there. Okay, that is my timer, so I need to run really fast and check on my laundry, and I'll be back. Okay, I have all my signatures assembled and all the pages in order. I did kind of do a quick look through and maybe rearrange the order of a couple of them. You don't necessarily have to do that, but that's just what I do. I just like to feel like it flows. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is quickly tear down these pages that are too wide. You could also fold them to the inside if you like, because you know, it's just an option. You don't have to tear them. I was really digging the torn edge on this one at any rate. So this one I will tear down. And had I taken 10 seconds to actually measure before I joined these with their own hinge, I could have trimmed off from this straight side, because it wouldn't have run into really anything, you know, there wasn't anything there to run into. So kind of wish I had, but now I haven't. And I really like the way I put this hinge together. It looks nice. So let's see, 8.5 by 11 means these are 5.5 inches wide. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. We're gonna lose just a little bit of leaf. Yep, nothing else really got missed, so that's good. So we still look okay. And I just happened to mark where that went in this signature by opening it up. Okay, this was, I think it was the bottom signature. Okay, and then I have my tissue paper here. That one's in the middle signature. So it looks like I have a couple that are just a little too wide. So what I want to do first, I think I just want a straight edge on this, but then I'm going to tear this one. So let me trim this. There we go. That looks good. If you had everything as an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, then this wouldn't be necessary. Since I did collect from a few random spots, that's why I ended up with papers that were oddball sized. But Natasha just used all, you know, 8.5 by 11 sheets. So that is one way that you can streamline your process. This does not look straight. What's going on? Okay. I think I'm going to go in just a hair beyond where 5.5 inches wide is. So it'll be just under 5.5 inches wide, which is great. And again, that was my middle signature. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. That was my middle signature, and then get in there. Oh, I still needed to take a little off the top. Here we go. There we go. Okay, there's that. And then where's my other one that's too wide? It's gone. Where are you? Oh, there it is. Well, I can tell you right now, he should be last. Is that right? Oh, I guess not. Okay, well. I'm going to get myself really confused here. At any rate, let's go ahead and just tear off the edge on this one. Which again, I could still fold it, but I like the texture of the torn edge. So, and all I'm going to lose is a little bit of that border, so I don't think it would be the end of the world. Hopefully I am not shaking the camera. I'm trying a new setup because I don't like, in the past I filmed with my camera on the opposite side of the table and looking back this way, which was great, but now that I'm up against a wall, it creates a gap between the back of my table and the wall and things fall off. So I'm trying it with the camera next to me. Hopefully I don't bump it. However, we'll see. Time will tell. Okay, so, okay, that one had that. I just want to make sure I don't have those two right next to each other. And where was my one with the center? Not you. Okay. Wait, where's my one with the tissue paper center? Is that you? Oh, not you. Oh man, just got myself really confused. There you are. Okay, so you're the middle. All right, so now I have one of those in each half of the journal, which is always nice to have continuity and congruity there. Okay. Then, now that we have our signatures, our 50 sheets put together and arranged into our signatures, I'm going to sew them in a minute, but before I do that, what her next step was to take some something a little more stiff with a little more weight to it, and it is going to create like a little mini cover for the outside of each one of these signatures. So essentially I'm like making 5 little mini journals that I'm going to stick together, and I'll show you the reason for that in a minute. The only thing that I have that's 8.5 by 11 that is kind of sturdy is this notepad here. It's really old. It's from Hobby Lobby and I got it like 100 years ago. So I don't even know if you can buy things like this anymore anywhere. I'm getting a little distressed by how quickly all of the scrapbooking supplies are vanishing, and it's being all just kind of condensed down to store brands that quite frankly are not that great, because you wouldn't find this kind of this quality now at Hobby Lobby. I don't think. I could be wrong. But anyway, so I need 5 sheets, one for the outside of each one of these signatures. And instead of being picky, which I could be, I could waste a lot of time. But these 3 are already pulled out, and so I just need 2 more, and I like the butterflies. And I should probably give this notepad a good shake and make sure that nothing else falls out, because I do have a habit of putting pages, you know, tucking them back in wherever. See, like that. Oh, and now we have a problem because I tore out my butterflies. Now I have 6. Well, I'll tell you, the stripe is probably not my favorite. So the stripe will go back into the notepad. And now I have 5. And I'm gonna get the yuckies off this top edge if I can. I think it might just be easier to trim. Give me a sec. I'm gonna trim this off. Okay, so on these, we're gonna fold them so that one wraps around each one of these signatures, but instead of folding with the pretty edge to the outside, as we're used to doing, I mean, you can fold your papers however you want, but on this particular exercise, we're folding the pretty side to the inside, and you'll see why in a moment. That's done, so we're just gonna put one around the outside of each signature. I'm going to not think about it too much or plan too much, as I am in the habit of doing. That's gonna look cool. There we go. All right, 5 signatures. So now each one of them actually has 11 sheets when you consider this cover. So the next step after this is to sew each one of these little booklets individually into a booklet. Or, I mean, I said sew, but she shows 3 different ways. One is to staple, one is to wrap. I'm just gonna sew because, to be honest, I'm not that great with getting the staples centered. I don't have a long arm stapler, which would be best for this. And then I don't know, the wrapping method didn't really thrill my heart, but it would definitely be easier, especially if you're intimidated by the sewing or you don't have the supplies. So let me grab my binding supplies, and then I'm just gonna do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch on each one, and I will show you that in just a sec. I got my thread, and I got my needles, and I've got everything I need for success, really. Except that I can't get this open. There we go. Okay. It's got a little label on it. That's cute. Oh, isn't that adorable? It's cute. Should I save it or should I not? So I'm not going to be too precise. I'm just going to eyeball it. However, the one thing I do want to make sure is that some of these shorter pages, do I like where they're placed or not? It really kind of doesn't matter. Anyway, so there are many, many people who are better at explaining this than I am, but what I'm going to do is punch 3 holes. I'll start with one in the middle and then one on each end, about an inch down from each edge. And you want to make sure it goes straight through the crease and nowhere else, not sideways. But I'll tell you, when you're binding a smaller signature like this, it's a lot easier. So let me clip these bad boys together for a sec. And then they say like 3.5 times the length, give or take. And what I am going to do is normally, when you start sewing your signature together, typically you start from the middle and sew to the outside, and then you end up with the knot and tying it all off on the inside. But what I would like to do is go from the outside in so that they end up getting tied off on this side. And that's because eventually it's all going to get covered up. So let's see how we do. It's going to take me a sec. I have to hold my mouth the right way, so bear with me. And there's that. Then I either go down or up, it really doesn't matter. And you go to the opposite end to that hole and back through. There we go. Then I go back out through the center hole, and you come up on the opposite side of where the starter thread was. Okay, I can take that off now, and then you just kind of pull opposite ends and then tie it off with a nice little knot. And that is how you do it, folks. I'm a lot more awkward than some, but that's it. And it's actually pretty simple. I'm going to do 3. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the other 4 signatures, just like I just did. And then I'll be back. Okay, we're going to tie this off, and that is signature number 5. But what I noticed is that, oops, that's not 3 times. looks like I have my 2 signatures with those pages from the garden book next to each other. And if that's the case, I don't want them next to each other. Yeah, see, look at that. Okay, so if you're number 5, I also have been writing which number signature and which way's up, and that also tells me which way is the front. That's going to be really important in a minute. But that must mean that the ones that have signatures that have the goodness, I'm so confused now. Thought I had this all figured out. The signatures that have the other pages like this must be back to back, which is not what we want. I want the, yeah, they are. How'd that happen? Okay, so that's 1. That's 2, you're fine. 3 has this in the middle. It doesn't have any garden pages. And 4 and 5, okay, so I need to swap, I think 2 with 4. I'm gonna shake the table. And maybe instead of writing that, I should double check myself first. No, that's not right. Okay, well, there's definitely this. Goodness, see how easy it is to get confused? I mean, maybe I shouldn't care so much, but I kind of wanted them staggered and opposite. Okay, 1, 2. This is 3. I don't have any. You do. You have that one. Oh. Okay, well, wasn't my intention, but here we are, so we're gonna go with it. Okay. Now at this point right here, if you want to decorate or stamp or something on your pages, stencil, which obviously I don't need stenciling really, could apply a stamp here or there, this would be the time to do it. Or if you wanted to punch like a decorative edge, if you cut with scissors, now would be fine. But if you were trying to punch it, it would have been easier before you inserted it in the bound it into the little signature. So I thought I might do some stamping in here, but to be honest, I don't think it's going to matter that much. I don't know. If I do, it's going to be very minimal just on these blank back sides, and I don't have very many of them. So I am going to do that and then come back. Also, I don't know if you noticed, you probably didn't, this was the second signature I bound, but it didn't go quite through the crease. And now it looks like this is splitting. So I'm gonna have to repair that before I even get started by using some tape or something. And she used masking tape. Natasha used masking tape to just kind of tape these down in each of her signatures. I don't know if I need to do that really, but I definitely need to do something about this guy. And since I have book tape, I guess that's what I'll do. After helping my daughter in her library classroom a couple of years ago, I discovered how wonderful this stuff is. And so I bought myself a roll to use sparingly, which this doesn't look sparing considering how much I just pulled off, but it is sparing. Anyway, as far as like around the house, you still have books that need to be repaired. Now they do use Scotch tape. They use all kinds of things. And so you could use masking tape. You could use washi tape. But I don't feel like those aren't meant to be permanent. They're not going to stay together very long. So I also bought this Scotch book tape for when I want clear. But I think that's a little bit overkill for right now. I don't mind doing it on this which I didn't tape on there very nicely. That's going to help save that split because this book is going to get a lot of use. But as far as taping these down, I really think you could just use Scotch tape. I think it would be fine. And I don't really think I need to. Maybe I'm wrong, but this book is for me. If I'm wrong, I'll find out. I can always take it apart and redo it. I have the skills. All right, let me clear this up and then I'll be right back. All right, I've got all that cleaned up. While I was off camera, I decided to go ahead and do some stamping in here. And let me see, there's a spot. I found a few more spots than I thought I might have. I also did a little bit of stenciling, but I went ahead and did that off camera, cleaned all that up. And then I thought about it again as far as taping off this little section, the little knot. So even though I didn't want to use the book tape because it's kind of spendy, quite frankly. And also I thought that washi tape or masking tape just wasn't going to hold up over time. What I decided to tape it with was packing tape because we have plenty. And anyway, so that just seemed like the best, easiest, most economical solution. After I taped all these, I discovered that some of them were actually getting kind of loose in the knot. So that would have been really sad if I had bound it and then it all came loose. I would have been crying. So that I think was a good move to just tape that off, make sure it's all secure. This is looking a little rugged, but it is what it is. It's just the nature of a handmade object. I also discovered that my sewing on the 5th signature is a little loose. Let's find the center here. That's not great, but again, since it's for me, it'll be fine. And I kind of wish that I had noticed that I would have tightened it up back here on the knot. Okay, so the next step that we have is to start gluing these together. Now I'll try to show you again how this looks and where you get the flexibility in this journal, but it's all in how you glue the spine together and how you glue these pages together. So what Natasha did, the next step, is to start gluing your signatures together. I was thinking I would like to put some kind of like tab in between these heavy pieces, make natural dividers and breaks in the journal, and I thought it would be really nice to have tabs on them, but I just couldn't figure out a way to do that without it being kind of awkward during the gluing phase. So I'll either add them afterward or I'll just put maybe some scraps of fabric or something, I don't know, or paper scraps or something. So let's get to gluing. What you want to do, and what she explained so well in her video, is this is the front, this is the back, and on every one I made sure I notated which way was up so that I don't accidentally glue something upside down. But we're just going to glue the two signatures together. So in order to keep the flexibility on the spine, you want to glue not all the way to the edge. You want to glue to about an inch. And actually the way this is, where these tape lines land, it kind of naturally lends itself to that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue signature 1 to signature 2. I'm just using, this is foam and poster adhesive by Beacon. Now they were selling this for a long time at the Dollar Tree for $1 and then $1.25, but then they stopped, and I've been looking for it for quite some time, since before I took my long YouTube break. So it's just not there anymore. So I'm just using up what I have and then I'll deal with it. But you don't really have to use anything fancy. At this particular phase, you could seriously just use white Elmer's glue, school glue, or all-purpose glue. Actually, what I meant to use was my Aliens tacky glue, which I may switch to here in just a sec because I don't have a lot of opportunities to use it up anymore, since I'm usually gluing with fabric, and that one I don't find works with fabric very well. So we've applied our glue, and now we're going to join these two signatures, signature 1 and signature 2. I'm going to line them up And then we're going to very carefully join these two pages together. And we want to make sure that there's no overlap and that everything comes together easily. So this is another reason why you want to use more of a wet glue that doesn't grab right away, because you need to have time for this to wiggle around and for you to make adjustments. Otherwise, if you use something like the Art Glitter Glue, it's a fast grab, and once it's down, once you've glued your pieces together, they are stuck. So, looks like I need glue in that corner there. So you just want to use a glue that doesn't dry super fast and that allows you some movement. And also, this is why I would not recommend something like using score tape, you know, one of these, the double-sided tape, because again, you need to be able to move this around and position everything. And as you start building the stack of signatures, it becomes more important that you have the ability to move things around. So that looks pretty good. You want to make sure there's no gapping here. I can still see kind of a little bit of white up here along the edge, and maybe, see, now when I lay it down, oh, that's the other page behind it. I thought I could see white, but I could see the white of this page. So actually, it looks pretty good. I just need to really smoosh it down. Smoosh is a technical art term. I know I've said on this channel before, I do not have an art degree. Okay, I'm gonna set this one aside. I'm gonna actually grab my other glue. So I have two. I have the white, the basic, you know, Aleene's tacky glue. It's America's favorite, apparently. And then there's this clear gel tacky glue that when I first got into making mini albums and all of that, I used this one, but it doesn't do fabric. So eventually I switched over to one of the Beacon glues. For right now, I'm just gonna try to use this smaller bottle, and hopefully it won't hurt my hand when I try to squeeze it. So again, we're going to kind of leave ourselves a gap, and I think I really do need to just maybe put more glue down than I just did. Could probably use a little more coverage. So this may take a second. Let's see. Also, these should be lined up at the spine, and it doesn't feel like they are, because you're going to want your journal to lay flat. So if one is sticking out from the other, so again, that's why you really want to have some time to play around with the page and to really get it positioned right before you move on to the next phase and before it dries. So yeah, I can see it's the edge of the cardstock. It's white. I don't know if you can see that at all. Can you see that? Yeah, you can kind of see that white edge. I'll go back and ink it then if I care. If I care enough. I may not. And also, even though I tore these down, they're still just a little wide, and I'm just gonna leave it at that, or maybe trim them with my scissors later. Again, not caring too much. All right, so those guys are together. So now we're gonna move on. Start gluing number 3. We're gonna glue together signatures 2 and 3. So I may want to put glue on both just because I think maybe it'll have better contact and better adhesion. This poor thing, I haven't used it for so long, it doesn't know what it's supposed to do. Wake up. There we go. It's surprised, like Cinderella at the ball. Who, me? You wanted my attention? Okay, I'm gonna try to do this without shaking the table. There, that's better. Better gluing. If I were to try to put tabs on these dividers, I would be trying to insert them here in between these two pieces of cardstock. in my mind, that makes the best sense of where to do it. Making sure everybody's going up. And then the first two are easy. You can just kind of lay them side by side and make sure that the pages are all tight and flush and the edges match up. But after that, you kind of have to start stacking the signatures on top of each other to glue them, and then coming back and really making sure that everything is tight and has good contact with the glue, and the edges are okay. So that's what you do. So I'm going to continue just gluing these and putting my stack together. But as you glue, you just want to make sure your top and bottom are flush this way and that your front and back are flush this way. Otherwise, you'll end up with a journal that's like sliding or tilting one way or the other, and that's no good. So right here, you can see they're not quite together, so I want to pull them together. There was a little bit of white space along one edge. And now we go look at it from this side. Make sure it looks okay. It's kind of hard because I do have pages that are sticking up and out just a teensy bit. And then I want to make sure that that glue gets all the way to the corners. That's not quite together. If I do have any corners that seem like they're just, you know, a small section or something, just needs a little dot, then that's where I would come back with the art glitter glue and just put a little dot down. Also, this signature feels like it's a little loose, so it seems like it's also sliding around. I guess I needed to do a better check when I sewed these together. And also, you know, I've been out of the journal making game for a little bit. So it takes a little bit to get back into the groove. One more. All right, I have the gluing all done. I think I did okay. It looks like the folds here along where the spine edge is going to be, they look pretty well lined up to me. Top edges are flush with the bottom edges. To the best of my ability, I got all of these lined up as well as I could where we're gluing the cardstock pieces together. So the cardstock covers for each signature. I guess I should show you that by not gluing right here all the way to the edge, this really gives you some flexibility in how the journal lays. And so it will lay open a lot easier. Looks like I glued a page there though. Casualty. So I gotta make sure I didn't glue any more pages together. Let's see how it just lays open. It's another loose signature. It looks like I didn't do a great job sewing those signatures, so I'm gonna have to do better. Do better. Okay. Yeah, look at that. That's nice, actually. And then you can see how when it's laying down, it has a little bit of give here. So now we're gonna go ahead and continue. The next step is to add a spine. So all she used for the spine was a piece of fabric. And I got rid of most of my fabrics in the great clean out to prepare for the move. And so I really didn't have a lot, but I was lucky enough to find this little scrap. I literally got rid of pretty much everything other than a few pieces to do a Better Homes and Gardens cookbook journal later on. That's the only fabric really I saved with a few little squares and stuff. So when I went through there, I had this piece. And what I need to have here is a piece that will cover the entire spine. This one is definitely directional. And so I need to make sure the tassel goes the right way. And I kind of would like more of the roses. There's not a lot to start with, but I would like it to show more of the roses. That way then the tassel hopefully will line up on the spine and look like it's going down the back. This is kind of fiddly right here, but if I want that centered as much as that is, I need to trim off. I tried to trim off here, but I think I want actually less. That's about, what, 2 inches or so? Yeah, that's probably fine. And then when I wrap it around to the back, then I want it to be another couple of inches. So I would say, like, on this leaf here. Actually, I'm really surprised that I even had a piece that would work for this. I also wanted it to be a little more durable, and this is thicker and heavier. So I'm going to start by trimming this up. But we have to make sure that I don't go too short because it has to actually cover the journal. Okay, so when I make my spine, that should do what I need it to do. All right, so my front piece is going to wrap around to essentially there. And so we're going to want to glue, but then again we want to leave some space, and she only left about a 1/2 inch here, some space, so that again it has movement and flexibility in the spine so that your journal can lay flat. I'm gonna put the glue on it, and then I'm gonna lay it basically on that fabric and hope try to line up the tassel with where the spine is going to be, and cross your fingers, hold your mouth the right way. And we'll see what we get. The other thing she said you want to do is you want to give this a little squeeze right here as you're trying to glue it all together, because otherwise you have too much give in the signatures. So that kind of came up a little past my pencil mark, so I'm going to line that up better. And you just kind of want to press this down a little bit. Ooh, it's coming through. I'm getting gluey. I forgot how messy I get doing this. So this is a little bit different because typically you get your cover and then you cover it with fabric, but on this method you are covering with the fabric on the spine first, and then we're going to make a cover. All right. So we have some of the rows showing at the top. We got our tassel on the spine, sort of. I mean, normally I wouldn't have a fabric that I am trying to match up so carefully, but since this already had the tassel, it seemed like the right thing to do. There we go. Okay, I'm just gonna pull it a little bit because I want this to not pop open too much, but you want it still to have enough give and not be so tight along the spine, and that looks good. All right, now we can move on to making the cover. So I already measured it out, And it is, of course, 8.5 inches high because it's 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper that we used to fold the pages. And then this part that I want to cover is approximately 5 inches wide. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that will line it up right about there. So first we have to make the cover. Now, the thing about this is I think you could actually use any existing book cover if you wanted to. Once you get to this point and you had maybe a specific book or some book pages you were using, you could just glue it down on top of here and you've eliminated all the sewing and you have a beautiful spine. That would be nice and quick. But we are going to make our cover, and I tried to find a paper that went sort of close to these greens. Close enough is close enough. Now, she cut down her 2 pieces of cardstock and she wrapped hers, and I only have 1 piece of cardstock. She wrapped her cover. Oh, that might be my problem. I was thinking I could glue this together and then just use it, but then I'll have this raw edge and I don't want that. So I need to grab another piece of this, and I am gonna actually have to cut that down to size. I meant to mention to you what it was I was using. I'm just using the back of a scrapbook pad. Actually, this was came in an order of scrapbook paper, and so they always when you order all the papers, they always put one of these in the packaging with the paper to keep it from wrinkling. And so this is essentially chipboard. I could double it if I wanted to and make it really thick, but I only have 1 sheet of this, and I think once I glue on the cardstock, it will give it a little bit more heft. Okay, so what we want to do here is we're going to wrap this around, and of course, because this is thicker paper, cardstock paper, we are going to have, it's going to be a little stiff to wrap, but to fold it around this, but we're going to do it anyway. I just marked 1, but I'm going to cut them both together. There we go. On this, I can just use some double-sided tape to glue it down. Okay. Then I'm going to show you a little trick, because once again, oops, sorry, I bumped it. Once again, this is a glue. It's a fast grab, right? It's gonna grab it, and once it's stuck, it's very stuck. I don't know why that's doing that, but that's weird. And so if you want to be able to have a little wiggle room with your double-sided tape before you glue things down, run over it with a little glue stick. And it allows it to just not grab immediately and allows you to move things around if you need to. I learned that ages ago from somebody I was watching when I first started back to paper crafting and was learning how to do mini albums. And that has been the best tip. So basically centered. Do the next one. Okay, so now we're just going to fold the corners in. And when you miter these corners, you want to leave a little gap right there, a little space. You don't want to cut right directly up against there, up against the cardboard, because it will show when you try to wrap the corner. And it took me ages to learn that, so I want to spare you guys all the pain and agony of that. And just tell you right off the bat. Because I actually kind of learned that trick ages ago when I was making other stuff, when I sewed many, many years ago. And I went to some class and we had to wrap something in fabric, and I just didn't understand how to not get the corner to show, but the lady teaching us didn't tell us to leave a little bit of a gap. It would have been very helpful. Once a long time ago, I learned how to cover baskets like with fabric. The tops, right? Remember that when back in the, I guess, 70s, when we were all decorating baskets and making gorgeous fabric tops. Yeah, I took a class 100 years ago on how to do that. And then we would line them with fabric. Remember that? Does anybody remember that? Yeah, that was a neat class. And then the 70s and 80s moved on and people stopped doing that. Also, baskets are not nearly as nice now as what was being produced back then. So I don't even think most baskets have tops on them anymore. Okay, so I've got this. She put double-sided tape down and then glued it. I'm just going to use glue because I think that's probably fine to just do that. So you do want to, before we do all that, kind of press this in. So we're going to glue down two sides and then like kind of adjust the little corners so that they cover everything, and then glue down the other two sides. I know that probably didn't make sense, but you'll see what I'm doing here in a minute. Got a drip. I don't know what to do with it. Okay. Press that down really well. Press this down really well. Okay, so now that we've glued two sides, there's a little overlap right here. So I just kind of want to crease it. Okay, it's a little bit wet, so I'm going to be careful. I'm not going to lay this face down right at the moment, but you can see how the corner is nice and flat. Okay, so now I'm going to do the other one. There we go. Two covers are covered, wrapped. I've wrapped the two covers, and now we're ready to glue them onto the journal. So this is where we pray that we did all that right, that all the measuring was correct, right? All right, so as we mentioned, I guess right now is where I should decide if I want this inked, and I think maybe I do. Yeah, so I have to be careful because there's glue, but I think it would look really nice with a little definition around the corners and around the edges. So let's do that. Actually, I kind of like how I inked this one better, so I'm going to put this one on the front. So we're going to apply glue all through here, and then I'm going to put fabric glue along here. And we just want it to line up. The top and the bottom need to be flush. And then we're gonna just leave a little gap. I don't know if you can see that or not. Just leave a little gap, a little overhang here, and that's about 1/4 of an inch. So I am going to make a quick little mark, like right here. And if I wasn't gonna maybe put some trim along the edge, I would not do that, but for the purposes of the video and making sure I get it right, I'm going to. So, it still feels like the fabric is just not quite tight enough, but it is what it is, man. It's all a learning curve. This is a good one to get back into the groove on. Can you see what I'm doing? I'll pull it down a bit. Yeah, it's a really good one to get back into the groove. Like I said, it's been almost 2 years since I last made a journal. I had other things I wanted to do. So it needs wet glue through here, the Aleene's, and then I'm gonna put fabric glue along the part that's gonna stick to fabric. Or you could just use all fabric glue, it doesn't matter. As long as it does paper and fabric, you'll be in good shape. I'm a classic over gluer, heavy glue. But I think if you can make it solid and secure, you avoid a lot of problems later down the line. So once again, we're gonna stick that on there so it lines up top and bottom. Oh, wow. And then in here, I want it to, it's probably the easiest way to see that it's okay, you know? Okay, so at this point, she glued one. Come on, I want you to be consistent. I want this to be even. So looks like it's not. At this point, Natasha just kind of set it up to dry. So we might have to do that too. And while that's happening, I can first cap my glues so they don't explode on me. And second, I think I will work on making the little title book plate thing, which actually, come to think of it, I have a book plate stamp. I just found that yesterday. So I'm going to set this under something heavy, and the heaviest thing I have, here, stand there for a sec. Nope, that's not it. That is not it. Stand there. Is this tin. And inside this tin is not shortbread, but my book that I use for like drying flowers and stuff. It's very heavy, but it fits so nicely in the tin. I decided that was a great place to keep it. And this has a little bit of a lip here, so I think actually I'm going to lay it upside down. So it's going to sit like this and then prop up the other side so that the cover can lay flat. So that's how it's going to look off to the side. I have a little book plate that I picked out, and I wanted it to say journal. I have these little itty bitty stamps that I bought, ages ago. I've had these, I don't know, probably 25 years, maybe, easily. And then I have this color, but if we decide we don't like it or it's not dark enough, I have some black. I don't really want to just say journal. I wanted, because I'm going to write like scripture verses and stuff in it, I wanted to use the word reflect, I think was what I wanted. I believe that's what I picked. So now I have to make sure I can spell reflect. It sounds better than think. I thought about devotion, but that's not quite. Or I could say remember even. I don't know if that'll even fit. R-E-M. I'm going to have two placeholders here. E-M. B. Another E. And another R. Well, there's a lot of E's and R's in that word. So I'm just turning these upside down as a placeholder for the letter, but we can make sure it fits. Oh, it does. Oh, that's nice. Now it's time to put this on the back. We're just going to repeat our process. And I'm going to say that right about there is where we want to put the fabric glue. I'm going to make sure the top and the bottom are flush. Good. And then we're going to make sure that these two sides, the covers, are flush. I'm going to squish it really well. It is a little flexible, so it's kind of different, you know. It's not quite as stiff as a typical hardbound book or something. I might not have gotten this quite tight enough, and it was because I was trying to line up that tassel with the back of the spine, but I think I got it a little too loose. There's glue oozing out everywhere. And in fact, I noticed right before we started the video that my fingernails were kind of grubby, but it was because I had cleaned all of my stamps earlier, right before I started filming. It got all over me. I promise you, I do clean up. Okay, so let's make sure that's lined up. I feel like that's still, like I have too much overhang there. I have more there than I did on the front cover, so I might have to clamp it. I don't know. This is the dry wet wipe here, just so I can smush. Okay, so how does that look? Oh dear, I'm just gluing everything. Okay. Okay. Wow. Very tight, very together. Yeah, this has got a little too much squishiness there. And she talks about that in her video. So I just didn't pull this tight enough, and I probably should have. But hey, it's my first one, and it's for me. So I can also tie something around it if I want. So now we have to let that sit. We have to smush it down again. Ugh. And we have to let it sit for a few minutes and finish drying. And then we can come back and glue on our book plate. All right, that's had some time to dry. Probably not as much time as it really should have, but I smushed the other cover down, and then I closed it up, and then I smushed it again for a little while, so it probably could use more drying time. It still feels pretty wet, but overall it's feeling pretty firm. Look at that. Look how nice and even all the pages are. That's amazing. It's beautiful. Okay, so now we're going to take a moment to try and decorate it up and see how that turns out. It's the fun stuff. There's my label. I had pulled this out, so I don't know. I like the heaviness of it, but I also like the delicate nature, how pretty this and soft this one is. I can scoot that over. So maybe I'll do both. I think if I just lay it like that and put my book plate there, and I really wish that, I think that could maybe be covered up a little bit, you know, that'd look nice tucked under there, but I really wish that I had some way to kind of cover that up and make it look a little prettier, but I don't. So I think probably the best way to do this is just to put down the line of fabric glue and then lay these two down together, because the one is so sheer, the glue is just gonna soak through it and onto the more crocheted trim. Yeah, I'm lucky I had this, because I really did. I cleaned out so many things. I mean, I thought we were going to be moving to another state, and my criteria was, do I want to move this or not? And of course I was decluttering and trying to figure out what's going on with my life, and it just took a different turn than what we had expected. But here we are. So we're still here, and still right in the same place where we were, even though we thought we were going to try to leave it. So let's put this down. I'm using this glue because it's handy, not because it has any magic to it. I like that. Oh, that's pretty. And then Just gonna pull that. Of course, it's soaking through. It's wet, very wet. Guess that's why they call it wet glue. And I have a mat to lay on my mat so I don't get my mat dirty. Is that silly or what? Okay, I'm gonna do the same on the back. Now we're gonna call that good, and then if I do need to add any more glue later, I will go back and do that. But for the purposes of this video, we are pretty much done. And then I have this little strip, so if I want to make tabs, what I was thinking of is that everywhere where we glued the two cardstock pieces together, this keeps getting gluey. Everywhere that we glued those cardstock covers together for, to glue the signatures together. I'm gonna have to really go back through this very carefully and stick all my pages. I don't know how they got so gluey, but they did. So everywhere that these are joined together, first I want to ink them up, but I think those make kind of a nice natural divider between each section, and I was kind of had in mind that I would section this into, divide this into different sections, and so maybe I could put a tab on each section because there should be 4, right? Anyway, and then I would just attach it probably with a staple, and then have one here, one here, one here, and one there. And then it would make it easier to find in the journal. And actually those wouldn't stick out too much. So yeah, I'll probably do that later. Here it is. Here's my journal just for me. This really is the easiest journal ever. It really is quite quick. And then this is how much flexibility is in the spine. Here we go, guys. It's had time to dry. I went back and added a little sticker on here because I thought it needed something. And then I ended up, because the journal still kind of felt wet, I set it up like this so that I could just let the pages dry out and stuff. And then when I came back to it this morning, because I did set it up, it kind of got a little bit warped. So I tried to set it under something flat. It sort of worked. So I would say when I do this again next time, I would make this a little bit thicker, more durable. But overall, I'm very pleased with the result. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And my stamping and the little stickers that I use, the flow of the pages, it's definitely worth doing this way every time instead of trying to sew signatures into a spine. So that's its main advantage. I hope you really enjoyed this, guys. Please give me a thumbs up and then comment below with any questions or any comments that you have. And I'm really thrilled to be back with you, sharing what we all love to do. Okay. So have a great day, a great week, and until next time, be inspired and do something creative today. I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye now.